welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Let's meditate as if it was the last time we're meditating in our lives. Because the progress is not made because we do something new, we learn really, it looks like, but the progress is because we actually surrender to it, to very simple tasks, and then the change happens. So how long does it take someone to make progress or a breakthrough meditating? Well, depends on how much are you ready to let go in a given moment. Some people could sit for a long time, for many years, and try to do it right and not really. You would definitely go above the average of below the average stress levels in life, things like that, but you probably won't make any change into a new paradigm or understanding or real revolution. And one person, no matter how experienced or not in meditation, would sit just one time and ready to let go, ready to open their minds to what is without trying to change, just accepting everything as it is, just letting go of your past, your conditioning, your survival conditioning of what you need to do. If someone would just be ready and open, could make more progress than most people do. So that's why I'm saying it's very important to, let's just see to get rid of the bad stuff, to get rid of the anxiety and this wrong feeling in my body and these wrong thoughts in my head that makes me uncomfortable. So I'm trying to find a patch to get out of them. That's a really good starter point. But in order to make real change, you also need to accept that. And that ironically, the moment that you stop running away from yourself, from your fears, from your suffering, that's the moment that it transmutes. Just takes this a day like today to sit and say, I'm just going to allow myself to be who I am, the way I am. Of course, leaving all your self-judgment, the low self-esteem. I say this because people are looking for self-esteem, and I don't think anyone ever found self-esteem. There's only lack of self-esteem when you think about it. Think about you're not good enough to deserve abundance, to deserve love or anything. But if you just don't think about it, there is never lack of self-esteem or self-worth or anything. You don't need to affirm your life into a positive, topping positive, running away from what it is to what you think you are in a Christian sense, to your guilt, to the things you think you did wrong, that are wrong in you. That's why most people go out with a mask through life, being different in different places with different people and us with a plan. Because That's why it's so hard to love someone profoundly and deeply, because you feel vulnerable. You feel that if you let them see you how you really think you are, how you see yourself, you think they won't love you anymore. So everybody's making a huge effort and it's really draining. That's why people run away from people, because it's so draining of energy. So just one moment of, I'm probably going back to Christian terms just because of Easter, of self-forgiving. Like, just don't judge yourself. Whatever you think is wrong with you, whatever you think you need to fix, just leave it alone. Just take a different hypothesis that actually all the wise men on earth have said is that you are already perfect. It's just that you are very distracted. Animal instinct distraction. I like to call it the ego, but I don't think anyone ever found an ego anywhere. But all these layers of self-conditioning over trauma, over fear, over need of changing things and need to control everything, to change people around you, to make them do what you want them to do, otherwise you won't love them. All this very complicated lifestyle could just drop in a single moment of someone letting go. When someone is ready, that could happen anytime, anywhere, just by the openness of, let's call it silence or heart energy, this just open to what it is. But most of the time, for most people, they would say, okay, I want it, but I found that I'm very distracted, so I cannot just go farther into that exploration. I notice that I'm deluding myself, that my mind is playing tricks with myself, is involuntarily making me lose control of everything all the time. Okay, fine. Welcome to be human. There is no shame on that. Even the most advanced, let's call it meditators, or let's say people who really explore themselves or set themselves free, they notice the nature of the mind. So there's no shame on that. There's no shame on what you think there is to shame about yourself. There's nothing. There's nothing wrong about it. You're perfect underneath that activity. You're perfect in your presence. You're perfect in your acceptance of this moment as it is, without fighting, without trying to change, to look for a future, to fix a past. Open your mind and let your thoughts fly away. It just takes that. Surrendering from the bottom of your heart. Craving for that divine love you know you should be feeling. You deserve to be feeling all the time. It's good to admit to yourself that you some way lost track. And the more your mind is active, layering down, programming, conditioning in your perception, the more difficult it is to love life as it is. That's okay. It's not your fault. There's this simple trick. Let go of your mind. You don't need it. You are not your thoughts. Thoughts just happen. Let them open to fly away. You don't need your thoughts to be alive. Meditation is our permission to explore that. So we set things in a way that you don't need anything right now, here in this room. You don't need to think. You could just for a moment let go of thinking and just feel. Thinking may still, and it will certainly will at some point, be rumbling back in the background of your perception. Just don't listen to it. Just rest in being alive without doing anything already. Because you're perfect. Because you don't need training. You don't need redemption. You don't need fixing. You only need loving acceptance without thinking. It's not even difficult to access, it's too short for most people because the habit of thinking very quickly resumes. That's okay. It's not that you're doing wrong meditation. It's not that you're a bad meditator. It's just that you are unaware of your mind. And as long as you don't see it, it can trick you. It can direct your attention without your consent. It can trap. It can trap you into thinking. That will be the case most of the time for most people. So if you cannot rest in total stillness in your perception right away, it vanishes very quickly and get distracted. There are a lot of tricks to go around that. you stay still, relatively inactive, the first thing you'll notice is the anxiety and tension, unnecessary tension in muscles around your body starts melting away. It's not a bad thing in the very beginning of the meditation to, on purpose, to let go of that tension. It helps out to smooth, change gears. So you could breathe a little deeper if you want to. Shake off a little of that tension in your body. Can you find unnecessary tension in your body? Can you let them go? The clearer your focus on the given tension, part of your body, the deeper the release. So you can scan your body to look for trapped energy out of unconscious emotions of survival. You can let go of that tension just by observing it with curiosity. It will melt away. With the light of your attention. We're going to be using some concentration exercises. For that, it's very practical to make sure that there is no tension in your forehead or in your eyes. We tend to tense that part when we are making an effort of concentration. So make sure that your forehead feels fresh and wide. As if you would open a window in front of your forehead. Let that tension go away. Now with a relaxed body, a gentle, automatic breathing, rest your effortless focused attention in the space between the eyebrows. and regard anything else as a distraction. So you are just letting your attention rest in the space between your eyebrows, like you would gently let flower in the water. No effort. Most certainly, in a few seconds, your mind will start pulling away once it notices that you're attempting to do, which will dismantle a lot of hypnotic trance and conditioning that is operating, a lot of spam software. So expect some resistance from the habits of your mind, but don't resist the pull when it takes you off your resting your attention in the center between your eyebrows. Because if you resist it, it will pull you away very easily. Whenever it happens, the most delicate and effortless way, just go back to resting in your forehead and cultivate effortless stability of single pointed attention. The less you do, the less you try, the easier it becomes. It's not like you're trying to stop, you need to stabilize it. as far as you're releasing tension and involuntary distraction, this will ultimately completely calm your mind to degrees of bliss and peace that exceeds most people's experiences. It's there, it's for you. But you need to let go of your involuntary background noise in your mind. At first it feels too difficult. That's okay. Because it seems it's just you're a victim of distraction. It feels difficult to rest with clarity in that space between your eyebrows effortlessly. But ultimately, these distractions still your mind in a deeper level. So in this way, you are cleaning or tuning your mind to the degree that you will even heal traumas or destructive thinking or negative thinking, or most of the negative emotions won't be triggered much simply by your mind being aligned one spot. It's like a video game of letting go of your thinking, learning to balance your attention. No matter how many times you get throw away. You cannot do this wrong because you're not trying to do anything really. Your brain unconsciously is always noticing that spot between the eyebrows anyway. It's a resting. It's a non-doing. It's a humbling, gentle surrender. Especially if you feel too distracted, make sure that your body is completely relaxed, that your breath is flowing effortlessly. You're not trying hard. Trying hard will only activate your mind. The trick is to do less and less. This is an impossible task for the mind. Whenever distractions try to pull you out, that's also your mind. Just relax. This little game is just exposing contradictory mental activity, involuntary ways in which you self-sabotage yourself that you don't notice. You need to fix them. Just need to let them go and clearly let know your mind right now, just reducing all your activity to resting the space between the eyebrows. Anything else is not relevant. like in training a dog. When training your mind, just be patient. All over again, as many times as needed. With care, lovingly. But with a clear authority, telling your mind that you don't need to think right now. And now slowly but surely let that single focus spot fall down into your heart. Slowly, that center of attention. When you rest in your heart, silence becomes more obvious. Your connection with everything becomes more obvious. And the state without thinking, there's no difference, there's no separation. Everything is the same. Your body, the universe. So through your heart, stabilizing your attention in your heart. Let it reach beyond your body to everything. And notice that in that silence there is no separation. There's no discrimination between your body and other bodies, your mind and other minds, your emotions and anything outside. There's no inside or outside. Anything you perceive being your body or not your body is actually the same. It's just perception. mind will keep trying to take you out of this observation. Just keep surrendering that contradictory, involuntary mental activity. You don't need to fix it. Just let it go. And rest in the most minimal aliveness here and now. The deepest resting clarity is always here. Surrender. Don't do anything. The deepest resting wakefulness state. So you can remember what you are before even being a person, before even perceiving a body or a world, before all that. You are life itself, aliveness, presence, silence, stillness, infinite, eternity. You don't need your mind. Your mind needs you. You're not in your body or in your mind. Your body and your mind are in you. You are that awareness that notices everything even before it exists. You already are that what you're looking for. much can you let your mind go, your involuntary distractions go, and remain resting in that presence that melts everything into one single perception, one single flavor, where there is no you or others, where there is nothing. Just for a few moments before we finish. How much you dare to let go of compulsive mental activity and rest, the most basic, primary, and perfect state of just being alive, transcending any thinking, any time, any space, just being. And without losing that core space, you can start activating more superficial layers. You can even, your mind can go back to moving, but still the center of your being still empty and open your heart. For most people, it's a gradual process. The more you familiarize yourself with that mental tranquility, the more you start recognizing or remembering that you are beyond your thinking. That's a crucial step. Because only then you start being really free. We try to be free from our problems, free from illness, from many things we try to prevent, we are afraid of. And that's impossible to solve because we are only slave by our own mind. Beyond your mind, there is only presence. The more you stay open, the more apparent becomes. The more you let go of your mind, the more you start understanding how you self-sabotage your own already given happiness. You start catching your mind. You tell yourself that story about this person done something wrong, or this way things are that it shouldn't be. You tell yourself that story and you set off harmony. But the mind is very difficult to convince. It's like a seller whatever you say, they will say back. It will say back more, because when you pay attention to it, you fit in it back. So that's why we need to be careful with the idea of not thinking, because in the very beginning, many people take it wrong. It's very easy. It's just that it's such a great, clear, specific, accessible way of understanding what's happening that needs to be reminded. But it's not like you stop your mind. It's more like you de-energize it. And you de-energize it, the unconscious way is by becoming unconscious and taking drugs or going on vacations or shopping or distractions of any kind. We get distracted from our minds when we do that, and we get a bit of a relief, a bit of a happiness, but just like the carrot, just enough to get to the next day. Our mind is always telling us happiness is in the future. Happiness is when you become this or that. Happiness is when you fix this problem or you get rid of this. So this whole business, it's about noticing what is already there, which is so difficult to accept to anyone. Yeah, we are all beautiful deep inside. We are. Yeah, but do you really think so? That you're perfect? And not as a human, as a mind, obviously, you're not. Let me explain. In the sense of a God or someone who doesn't make mistakes. The sense, if you, all these techniques of meditation and all these different styles, they are just helping you to step out of the trap. And with different games, it leads you to doing less. That's a very, very distinctive, clear pointer of you're doing good. And the less you do without falling asleep, the more obvious becomes that everything is just fine right now. It takes courage, like a leap of faith to let go. That's the problem. That's why people sit to meditate. Many people, there's this bottomless, fathomless happiness deep inside of you. And we are in the surface of barely surviving. And when people try to see it, or let's say find a way of letting go and go deeper, it gets stuck somewhere. Like your mind catches some way. And that's where this simple meditation we did today has been proven the grounding of actually any human achievement ever. Just a discovery, just a solution of any kind comes from this kind of clarity, this kind of focus. So it's nothing unnatural. It's the most important thing in life, to be focused. And just with that, you can go very, 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 very deep in the rabbit hole and just find there not just beautiful words, not promises, but just you start noticing that there is truly a very deep sense of peace and happiness inside of you. As far as there is no this mental activity, you can proportionally see that it's there, that is there. And you will see and check it in. You come again next day. Little by little, you convince your mind to, it's okay, just let go. How long can you go without thinking, without doing, without fixing, without defending yourself? Hopefully, for those of you who are able to follow the level of refinement of letting go and stability of attention, as you sink deeper, especially the heart is a key area because it's silent. If you focus in your heart and you're able to sustain it, it's silent. It is. You still get some noise if you're up here, but down there is just silence. And it becomes more evident. And you only see these disruptions of attention of your mind. But if you sit as an offering, not because you fix anything, but just because you surrender, you sit, you open to it. It cannot, is your mind. It cannot but surrender to you. For as big as your fears or your traumas or whatever you think is making you unhappy, addictions, codependence, all these things you need to be happy, or bigger than they seem, you can make them all surrender to the most direct, self-evident, direct comprehension of the truth that right now, here and now, if you don't disturb attention, you remain pure attention, there's only peace. Always, ever. And I just want to let it there. Not to sound too much of a fairy tale. But it gets better. It gets better, and it should transform your life completely. The way you see at things, the way you see at your body, the way you see about everything. And many of them sound a little surreal to talk about, but it become more and more clear the more you allow yourself to rest in that prior to thinking state. This silence, this stillness. And here's the postcard of today. It's for you to take if you find it inspiring. Today we're quoting Bodhidharma, which is single-handedly probably one of the most beautiful evolutions in these explorations we're discussing here today. He brought Buddhism into China. Chinese had their own thing going with Taoism, deep, pure, profound understanding without conceptual. And Buddhists had a very, very clever, sophisticated, scientific approach. And the blending of them brought us beautiful traditions like Zen, like Tibetan Buddhism, the core of non-duality. So he says, this apparently nonsense word for most people. To seek is to suffer. That should feel hard to an average mind. It's exactly the opposite. Your mind is telling you all the time, you need to go there, you need to do this. It's never a good moment to just relax and be happy. It's never. The mind is always pulling, 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 pulling. So this, I remember the first time I was exposed to this concept, it was like, nah, they cannot be true. I find happiness in pursuing goals and achieving things when I get what I want. It seems like that. But hopefully, if you suffer enough, at some point you start realizing, wait, it's not that simple. It's not that simple. You can accomplish great things in this life and still feel very miserable. I think it sounds a little maybe scary for most people just to think about, but you could succeed on any goal you have in life, whatever it is, and still be full miserable. It's even scary, right? Because it seems to be like the last chance you have. Maybe if you really get to save enough money and move to, maybe you will feel at peace enough to, maybe you find someone who really loves you for who you are. Maybe you find a perfect career where you can express your skills fully and they pay you accordingly to that, and everybody agrees on that you're just so amazing, and your company or whatever it is just really gives you back what you're giving. Hopefully you're quick enough to notice that just never ever is going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I know it may feel a little unsettling at first, because in our culture and because of the nature of our body is this thirst. But just for a second, ponder that at least just this little bit, that you're just not going to find authentic, lasting happiness in that way. I'm not saying you don't get a lot of money, you're going to feel way more secure and capable than before. Maybe you just allow yourself to feel like that. That will be more accurate. Whenever I really have that kind of money, I will feel safe. Whenever I have that, when I have that house, I will feel safe. Whenever I've had, but hopefully you've been accomplishing enough in your life to notice that that's really not the case. Is it? I know this is quite hardcore. Talking about our cultural lifestyle and the regular mindset is quite hardcore what we're discussing now. We're saying, oh, that thing you're working so hard for, fine, but it's just a game. It's not gonna give you what you are actually looking for, which is terrible for most people to find out, because the last hope is in the future. The last hope is in becoming something. But just for a second, hopefully if you let go enough of your mind and you get this clarity, you start considering that this seeking, that is the activity of your mind, is actually the problem. So hopefully these words make more and more sense. Seeking is to suffer. To seek nothing is bliss. That is directly going against almost anything anyone ever told you in life. Everyone told you need to improve yourself. You're not good the way you are. You need to accomplish things. You need to become so, and it's not that easy that you just stay there and like this hippie just laying there with no clothes. Probably was poor. He had nothing. He was almost naked. Oh, how gross. There's so many taboos in our culture. We're exposed so much all the time. We've been exposed all our life that this should kind of land a little hard. If you want to embrace it and you're ready to embrace an alternative path to completion, This will feel a little hard, but it's in a healing way. Feels a little hard to think that all that money is not gonna make you happy. All that things you think are gonna. Feels a little hard. It feels like, oh no, then how am I gonna? But it's actually pointing in the right direction. It's bringing about a lot of improvement, a lot of freedom. Because here's the beauty. Here's the thing that all these, the wisest people on earth through any kind of tradition, were telling all the time. The core of you is perfect already. That happiness that you wish you had, this wonder of a child to go around life enjoying everything. It just doesn't matter if it's your car. You just see the car. It's just so amazing. You just enjoy it more than the people who's driving it. Everything becomes already there. Every experience already perfect. But that would be too easy for the mind. And here's the thing, just to take off. What I said just made sense to you in some way. I know it's hardcore to try to integrate that in your life. It goes against everything you've been working so hard for. But at least I think it's very, very brave on your side to consider it seriously. On the other side, many people saying, considering this, will say, okay, so I'm going to turn some kind of like lazy person that's just going to rest all day without doing anything and letting your life and everything just go rotten. Well, the complex situation in here is that to some extent, yes. But let me be clear. All these things you actually don't want to do, that you're doing just because you think you have to do them. You're forcing yourself to do them out of fear, out of confusing, out of all these dark emotions that just pulls you into compulsive escaping from yourself by doing and by reaching some point somewhere. Something different, but not you. Not you the way you are. Yeah, some things will drop out. Some people will quit their job, most certainly. Relationships, probably. But all the toxic, bad ones, they actually didn't want in the first place. So, yes, surrender yourself to say, I just noticed that I don't have to do anything. Okay, this is not my job. I'm going to be fired. Okay, so it's just not my thing. And here's the point I want to make. I'm not saying, and if you will know me in a personal way, I'm the last person to say, just go there and do nothing. In the regular sense of the word. Bunch of good friends of mine in different ways, and they've been like years meditating in caves in the Himalayas and doing hardcore stuff, and that's a good part of the process, but that's not the full process. That's the negating process of the equation of not this, not that, not this, not that, until you peel up your being into what you core. So it's a very important process to do. I'm just saying that it's not necessary for most people to quit your job or quit everything. I'm not saying that's necessary. But what will happen if you will feel free, if you have no fear? How will your life change? If you will feel that you don't need anything or anyone to feel completely fulfilled, how will that change your life tomorrow, tonight? If you will, that's certain, that's to notice that, okay, I just follow this thing and it's there. It's there. Little by little, getting confidence and stay more in this just being rather than doing and becoming. Just the more you do that, the more you convince yourself. Different people, different process. For most people, it really takes years to stabilize. So it's really fun. Even people who go very dramatic through a near-death experience, something like that, going to dramatic, this puff, opening and releasing, takes many years to actually adjust into blending with normal life, meaning being in the world again. That is real mastery. That's real mastery. And you won't see that, people. You will notice that people there, but there's people out there that seem very humble and they are very, very, very evolved. They just will never talk about it. So what I'm saying is that my experience and everyone I know is the more you clear up all this, you need to do this to be happy, you need to do that to be safe, you need to do that to make things the way you want it. The more you dare to let go of that, funny thing, the more spontaneous, loving activity comes out of you. Creativity. So it's not just renouncing in the classical way, in a religious context. I think it makes sense for certain people, that's the way. But it doesn't need to be that. I say this because for many people say, oh, I will never go in a retreat for 1 year, so what's the point of even trying at this? I will never be good enough. Because that's what they say, the serious meditators meditate for so long and such a hardcore way. I will never be good enough. My mind is just full of distraction. And I'm not going to quit my job. I'm not going to quit my relationships. I'm not going to quit. I don't want to. Okay, fine. I'm just saying, it doesn't even matter. Don't do it. Don't quit anything. Don't stop doing. Just stop thinking. Can you do your job without thinking much? Let me be even more specific so it sounds more reasonable. Right now, the percentage of thinking versus being and feeling and directly observing the reality of your perception in any given moment, the tilt is normally around 90-something% compulsive thinking against a little bit of just enough to keep on living. Oh, I'm here. Okay, these people with me. Okay, I can function. Well, these people and this thing, and I need to do it. You know, we're still all there ruminating all the time. It's just accepting that. That's a great, great improvement. But what we're discussing in here, just to bring it to more manageable terms, not so radical, if you will tilt above 51%, 51, so you're still thinking a lot, more than you need actually to do any activity. If you're very performance oriented in your job or whatever you do, you're super aiming to become excelling at what you do, you will notice that actually in order to perform good, you need to think a lot less. You need to be a lot more there, a lot more focused, a lot more relaxed, a lot more adaptive. So it is actually very directly true for any one of you trying this, isn't it? Isn't it? I mean, I'm just trying to, what I said before was very radical, but what I'm saying now, hopefully it seems very close home to you. There's an excess of overthinking, compulsive thinking that is you never decided to. How do you get rid of it? Tame your mind like a dog. This is it's not the only way, but it's the simplest, most effective way. I never found anyone. And whenever, let's put it this way, whenever I see anyone complaining of not getting results out of meditation, of not making dramatic changes, as we were discussing before, in their life, not really feeling deeper peace, is because they're not settling their mind. So your mind is way cleverer than you in many ways. So it will pull you off all the time, isn't it? Doesn't it happen? This is a great recognition in saying, okay, fine, my mind pulls me all the time. But there's a huge power in saying, but still I'm gonna sit and say this very clearly to my mind. Whatever you try to tell me, it's not true. It's not true. You just want to get my attention like a spoiled kid. It's not true. You don't need to think. That's where all these meditation techniques seem to be so incredibly basic and basic, because it becomes more clear. You could do it virtually in anything you do all the time, but if you want to clear up what is you and what is not you from your mental activity, you will just pick in a point and just stay in there for a while in a way that you know you don't need to think about anything. You're just resting in there. You'll very easily notice what is compulsive in you. Does it happen? Did it happen? A little bit, at least today. And in that proportion, when you there's some kind of relaxing, there's some compulsive going back to it, but the more you trust, the more you open to it, and actually can float in this here and now without thinking, there's a more a proportional tranquility, kind of sensation of release of certain energy that been used, resources, clarity been used into some processing that suddenly just get released, and you notice, well, that was just a fucking virus because it was useless, literally. And that's exactly what you're gonna find, and that's one of the things that I really want to make, because I think especially in meditation environment, they don't really make this point clear, and it's driving many people mad. And it doesn't need to be so complicated. It's really as simple as we're discussing right now. You focus, let go of anything that is going against your intention. Pick a very simple intention that is already happening, like your brain noticing a sensation in your body. Anything, your brain is already noticing everything in your environment. So literally anything you will pick, just do that, because your brain is already doing, so it's not accentuating the intensity of activity in your brain. That's what your mind will tell you. I need to make an effort to concentrate. Bullshit. That is putting another software on top of the software and trying to push it down. It's never gonna work. Hopefully you will notice that soon. So what's the whole point? Well, you need to let go of all these involuntary things you're doing to yourself. Just such a habit. It seems, oh, I'm a victim of this, I'm a victim of that. If you obviously, it's always a lot easier to observe in other people. If you unfortunately had someone around you who had addiction, and people have in different ways, but I'm talking about hardcore addiction, like to substances, you must been shocked, especially if you try to help them, because you can understand how this such a smart, sensitive human being can fall again and again and again to this self-destructive habit. And if you really will talk to them deeply or try to analyze them, you notice they seem to be victims of something they cannot control. And it is true. They cannot control it. But that's not true just for the extreme cases. It's true for all the range up down to perfect happiness. Just that most people don't even have that standard. In our society, we have the standard of being sick alone in your mind, so nobody notices. That's the standard. Everybody's really screwed. You start talking to them, it is really bad. Bad, everybody's just asking you to put your shit together and go to work. That's all they're asking. But it's crazy, and it becomes more evident that it's just not working. So what's the alternative? The alternative is the premise that you need to fix, you need to become, you need to be, all that is just wrong. You're already perfect. And that seems very hard for most people, and I really understand it. So I'm not expanding that from out of these simple words. Any of you say, oh, I get it now, I'm happy forever. No, your mind is going to back at you over and over, but hopefully you start noticing, wait, my mind is below my attention, below your awareness. So it may take a little bit of dog training, because there's a little bit of that feeling, right? In a way, it could be said, it's not true, but it's an analogy many people will buy into. You need to sort of like change your brain a little bit. You could see the patterns of behavior and attention in your brain. That's not true. Don't even get trapped into that. You need to do that and go to a place where they measure your brain to know if you're happy now. But just make it reasonable. What I'm trying to say is sit every day. I'm trying to convince you to sit every day, to understand the task that one side you already have the win just by really, honestly, profoundly wanting freedom forever, and going as deep as you can be. Do you raise your hand? Okay, sorry. So, one idea, 51%. Okay, complete let go and finding this place where you're hype on everything. You go around hugging traffic lights or anything like that. Okay, it definitely happens. And it will definitely happen to you if you keep scratching. Sometimes the release is so strong I mean, I was dumping into tears a little bit before. I was just holding myself not to make a scene, but well, yes, 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 yes. So not to go so enthusiastic that people won't like that part, or saying you're in a sect or something like that. Bringing back to effectiveness and non-mental illness level. 51% of clarity. I'm I mean, try this. Let me know if any one of you would try this and you find that it's not true. But I promise your life will increase 300% if you get rid of 50%. And by 300%, I'm just been cutting it very short. But let's say 300%, so it makes, oh, that sounds like, if I would tell you 329% as empiric scientific evidence proofs with a comma afterwards, you may believe it even better. But more in here and now versus here. How you do that? You let go. It's not a doing. It's nothing you need to be better at. That's hard also in the mind. Like, how I thought I would have to be doing something to be a better meditator. And you're telling me that not? Nah. I need to be in a new team, a new thing, in a new environment, a new thing I have to become. So just trust, just opening, just letting go, like when you fall to sleep. But if you would just fall asleep and you will open your mind, you will go through all your dreams aware, and you'll land in a deep state where your body and your mind are asleep and you just still there. And there you will be in bliss. That's not 51%. That is obvious. That's where you are every night. It's just that you don't remember. We don't remember. Why don't we remember? Because all this chatting. So I really hope from the bottom of my heart that you find this compelling to try it. And ironically, the action of not doing is the best of action. And not doing, please, I'm here to suggest meditation because it's a proven method since the beginning of human mind, that they had already figured it out actually, but we tend to forget it. So we need to be reminded. That's my job. But you can find this anytime, anywhere. Meditation is just a way of making sure that you're not lying to yourself, making sure that you can really get a good standard. And this type of meditation is just one. You can still let go of this controlling your attention. But the reason why I don't suggest to do that right away is that most people do it too quickly. They have no control of their attention. And they just go spade out with mindfulness all around. Oh, I think I'm meditating because I feel less of my whatever. No, I'm talking about clarity. Clarity, crystal clarity, as we're talking to you right now. You're here. It's crispy, bright, light. It's so intense. It's so energetic that it's like falling in love with life. It leaves no trace for doubt. How would you explain to a psychologist that you love someone? There's no way to explain it, really. It doesn't matter how much poetry you write. You just know. In the same way, all this thing that I'm talking, deep inside of you. It's just lost in the priorities of your mind. Like, one day when I retire, I'm on vacation, maybe I'll try this thing of calming my mind. So don't seek happiness in your moment than here and now. And don't you ever believe that you're not ready for it. That is just a thought. Thank you so much.